So you've been chosen by God and you still don't know what to do. John chapter 15 tells us 3 things that are crucial to understand when God has called us. 3 things, and the last one, I believe, is the most important one. But John chapter 15 tells us the story. Jesus is telling here his disciples the last few words he wants to tell them before he's going to die. Are these words important? Absolutely. They're probably one of the most important words that Jesus was trying to tell his disciples. Imagine if you're dying, what do you want to tell your loved ones at the very end? This is the very thing that Jesus is telling his disciples. And there are 3 things that we find in here that are crucial for us to understand, to be able to understand when God is calling and what to do once he has called us. Number 1, he says, I am the true vine and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit. What every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes, so that it will be more fruitful. Here we find the very first thing that we need to do. See, as a gardener, they need to prune. They need to prune all those branches that are growing out, okay, and covering the main branching. And what those extra branches are doing is covering the main branch, and that main branch is unable to give fruit. So what does the gardener does here? He prunes the branch, okay? Now, this is crucial to understand because most likely, Jesus has called you, but what's holding back from him doing his will in you is that you are still not allowing him to prune you. What do I mean by that? Maybe you are still watching the same things you used to watch before. Maybe you're still listening to the same music, the same things that you used to listen before. Maybe you're acting still the same way. You talk the same way. You do all the things the same way that you used to. You are not allowing God to prune you. In order for God to work in us, we have to abide in him and he has to abide in us, but we have to allow him to prune us, taking out all the unfilthy things that is still in us. That's the only way that we can continue to move forward. We cannot follow Christ the same way we were before. It's not possible. It's a changed heart because now Christ lives in me. When Christ lives in us, it means we want to talk like him. Okay? We want to walk like he did. His interests are now our interests. Why? Because he's the one living inside of us. When we speak, it's not us speaking. It is Christ speaking through us. The things that we hear, the things that we watch, everything that we do is Christ now in us. If we still live in the same way that we were used to be living before, how do you expect for God to bless you when you are still not committed to him? Why would he? Yes, by his grace, but he has a plan for you. You've been called for a reason. You're just not allowing him to prune you, to take out all those unfiltered things. What is the second thing that is telling us? Let's continue reading in John chapter 15. You're already clean because because of the word I have spoken to you. Remain in me, and I will remain in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. He keeps telling us the very simple thing. Remain in me, and I will remain in you. So what's the second thing that we need to do? Trust in Jesus Christ, that he is truly living inside of us. Abide with him. Spend time with him in prayer, in his word. Has that changed? Has that truly changed in your life? Look back in your life. Has your prayer life increased? Has your time with Jesus increased? Are you allowing for him to abide in you? That is crucial because he has called you again for a reason. And in order for him to truly bless you to the full magnitude, as it says here, as giving fruit of those branches giving fruit, he wants to give you abundantly. But we have to allow him for him to be living inside of us. Abide in me. That was his words to his disciples. Abide in me, and I will abide in you. And he continued to say, abide in me, and I will abide in you. Verse 5. I am the vine, you are the branches. If a man remains in me and I in him, he will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. If anyone does not remain in me, he's like a branch that is thrown away and withers. Such branches are picked up, thrown into the fire, and burned. And here's the third clue, which I think is one of the most important ones, in order for all this change to occur. If you remain in me, and this is a promise, okay? It's not just saying the words. He's giving them a promise. If you remain in me, and my words remain in you, ask whatever you wish, and it will be given to you. Do you find anything more powerful than that? Jesus Christ is telling us to ask whatever you want. But what is he saying before? Remain in me, and I will be in you. All he's asking from us is to allow him, for him to abide in us, to spend time with us, to take away all those unfilthy things, to allow him to work in our lives, to allow him to change our hearts, our minds, to be dedicated completely to Christ. That's his greatest desire. When we find that, he's telling us, ask whatever you want, and it will be given to you. Now you're probably thinking, I'm not there yet. See, I have all these sins, all these unfiltered things is still carrying with me. Ask whatever you want and it will be given to you. Have you asked Jesus Christ to change your heart, to take away all those unfiltered things? To change your mind, to change your words, your actions, everything that you do? Have you asked Christ? Have you been spending time with him and truly going on your knees and saying, Lord, help me. Save me from this sin that I have. Because I cannot do it my own. God promises that he will do everything. Everything if we ask him. But why have you been called? Why have you been chosen? Why have you been picked? It tells us in the very last verse here in verse 8. This is to my Father's glory, that you bear much fruit, showing yourselves to be my disciples. And I love what he says on the very first part. This is to my Father's glory, saying, this is what my Father really wants. This is what he enjoys. This is what he desires, for you to ask whatever you want. He smiles, he glorifies, he is so excited for him. All because you have asked him. Because you have asked for a change. You have asked for him to abide in you. And God desires to live inside of us as anything else in this world. But why have you been called? Because he wants you to be his disciples. Now he wants you to show the rest of the world the change he has done in you. Has that happened in your life? Has there been such a change that others can notice that you truly live for Christ? That Christ lives in you? That his love lives in you? Now that love can be expressed to others, and that's what he wants. That's why you have been called. Maybe we need to get on our knees and ask God to truly abide in us. May God bless you always.